Greetings. Very pleased to join the RewirEdX. We're very pleased because it's an important conversation in terms of bringing to the front issues of Zambia's early childhood education. Now, my name is Henry Malumo. I am the campaign manager for a newly launched campaign. The campaign is focusing on early childhood development and mobilizing resources through what we are calling the Constituency Development Fund. Allow me to straight away go into giving you a slight brief about Zambia and our journey on early childhood education. Now, the Zambian government officially adopted early childhood education as part of the mainstream education system in 2011. Early childhood education became mandatory for Zambia in the year 2014, and as government's demonstration of its commitment, 1,000 teachers were recruited in 2013 to support the police movement or the police shift. In addition to that, government went a step further to create a Directorate of Early Childhood Education in 2016. Now, I would like to give you a quick analysis of Zambia's education budget. Now, the Zambian government has two ministries of education. There's the higher education and the general education. The general education is the main ministry that brings together primary education, secondary education, early childhood education, and also the management of the education ministry in the country. Now, if you look at the budget in front of us, and again, this was from UNICEF Zambia, a very credible source, it is clearly indicating that 73% of the 2019 education budget went to primary education, 18% went to secondary education, while 8% went to management. Unfortunately, only 1% was devoted or was allocated to early childhood education. Moving on, we would want to share with you what we feel are the challenges that are affecting the sector, but challenges that point very specifically to the issue of early childhood education. Number one, Zambia's education budget has been on the decline. That the latest budget in terms of percentage is that of 12%, from a very positive budget of 20% in 2014, is now declined and went down to 12%. Secondly, government investment in terms of early childhood education or government funding has also been on the decline. And thirdly, the Zambian government has a huge debt of about $11 billion. And this debt is currently suffocating education financing because money meant for education is now being diverted to repay the debt. And lastly, the donor or development partners' support to ECD or early childhood education has equally been on the decline. Now, as a campaign, we've decided to come up with three objectives of advancing the early childhood education. The first objective is that we would like to promote and popularize the importance of early childhood development to two groups of people. These are parliamentarians and the general public. Secondly, we would like to advocate for the signing of the early childhood development social contracts. These are signatures by our parliamentarians who are currently aspiring and will be going to elections in August of 2021. And our last objective is to lobby and advocate for the allocation of 10% of the current aid to education to be channeled towards early childhood education. Moving on from our objectives, again, we look at 2021 as a very special year. Why is 2021 special? Because Zambia is going to an election. We believe that this is a great moment to generate public and political interest in early childhood development. This will ultimately place ECD at the top of our political agenda. Secondly, we believe that during an election period, there are higher chances of politicians or aspiring candidates endorsing people's demands. This is the time where elected officials pay attention. And lastly, we would like to mobilize the public and the voters to make the call for ECD to become a priority. So who's our target? We've identified 5 targets, some of them that are allies. The first and most important target are the voters and the general public. The second are the aspiring parliamentary candidates. The third are the presidential candidates. The fourth are the political parties. And the fifth, would be that of development partners or donors. And finally, pulling all that together, we'll be counting on the strength of our movement, the global movement, as well as the national movement for education, as well as the interfaith network, whose voice is actually highly respected in Zambia. Now, for those that may be coming to understand the CDF for the first time, just a quick introduction to the CDF. The CDF, or the Constituency Development Fund, is linked to the 156 constituencies where we have parliamentarians. And each of these constituencies receives $88,000 annually. And we are proposing that 20% of this annual allocation, which is around 17%, should actually be devoted towards the creation of ECD centers. We are saying this because the CDF is a ring-fenced allocation. This is a fund that is rarely disrupted, so government is consistent. And finally, the CDF is a community-based. It's a fund that covers community projects that are community priorities. And moving on, we want to make the shift or make our focus and make the ask to our donors, the development partners. What are we asking them to do? Number one, that they allocate 10% of aid to education to be channeled to early childhood development. And also we are asking them for a matching fund that will complement the ECD CDF. As you might be aware, the Early Childhood Development, Constituency Development Fund is actually generated from taxpayers' money. So we are now calling on donors to match that fund with a contribution that will help create these centers. And lastly, we are also asking donors to prioritize early childhood financing, because we have seen in recent past of how donors have made the shift and almost reduced their financing towards ECD. Now, this is an important conference, and we would not want to shift the attention to the conference participants, to the very important people, the organizers, and a number of partners that are attending. First of all, our ask is that we would like to call on you to help Zambia and other developing country partners to manage their debt. Zambia, like many countries that are in debt, they need your help. They need your expertise. They need your guidance in managing the debt, but most importantly, in getting out of the debt. Secondly, we're asking partners or some of the development partners to cancel the debt or give debt relief to countries such as Zambia, because this will unlock money for education. Thirdly, we are asking for an increment or an increase of aid to education and especially early childhood development. And also, we are asking for increased efforts for better donor support, for better donor coordination. And finally, we are asking for support to civil society organizations or CSO engagements, especially in the area of the ECD sector, and in very particular, support towards the ECD CDF campaign that we have mounted. With these very few words and remarks, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and we look forward to fruitful deliberations, and I thank you so much.